The night was dark, and the alien village slept under the glowing moons. Shadows danced between broken walls, the smell of smoke still heavy from the last raid. Inside a small home, a young child named Lyra sat beside her alien mother, her eyes wide listening to the faint noises outside. Her mother Sarah always told her not to be afraid, but tonight her voice was shaky, her hands trembling as she held her daughter close. Suddenly, shouts echoed in the distance, the sound of armored boots and metal chains. The enemy had come again. Ruthless soldiers searching for survivors. Sarah grabbed her child's hand and whispered, "Stay quiet, no matter what happens." Her heart pounded as the door burst open, and two guards shoved a prisoner into the room. The prisoner was not alien. He was human, dressed in torn armor, blood on his face, eyes filled with anger and confusion. Lyra had never seen a human before, only heard stories of their wars, their cruelty, their fire that burned across worlds. Now one stood before her, broken but unyielding. Sarah froze, her breath catching in her throat. The guards laughed, saying this human would be executed at dawn, then left him chained in the corner. The door slammed shut, leaving only silence. Lyra's small hand clutched her mother's arm, and she whispered, "Mama, who is he?" For a moment Sarah said nothing. Her eyes stared at the man, her lips pressed tight as if fighting words she did not want to say. But then, as the human lifted his head and his tired eyes met Lyra's, something deep inside Sarah broke. She bent down to her daughter, her voice shaking as she pointed at the human. "This is your real father," she whispered. The words fell heavy in the small room. Lyra gasped, her eyes wide in disbelief. Her heart raced as she looked back at the man, who stared at them with shock, not understanding what was happening. He shook his head slowly, as if refusing the claim. Sarah gripped her daughter's shoulders, tears filling her alien eyes. "I wanted to protect you," she said, her voice breaking. "But you must know the truth now before it is too late." Lyra pulled back, confusion twisting inside her. "My father? But he's human. You never told me." The human prisoner spoke at last, his voice rough but steady. "I don't know you. I don't know her," he said, his gaze locked on Sarah. "What game are you playing?" His chains rattled as he shifted, his jaw tight with anger, but deep in his eyes something flickered when he looked at Lyra, something he could not explain. The room felt smaller, heavier, filled with unspoken truths. Lyra's chest hurt as she stared at him. Her whole life she thought her father had died in war or perhaps never existed. Now, to hear that he was alive, here, in front of her, shattered everything she believed. Sarah turned her back to the wall, pressing her hand to her face as memories surged. She had loved once long ago on a battlefield where love should never have bloomed. A human soldier had spared her, touched her heart, and disappeared into the chaos. She raised their child, alone, keeping the truth buried to shield Lyra from the cruel eyes of both humans and aliens. But fate had dragged the secret into the open tonight, and now nothing could be hidden again. Outside, the sound of enemy soldiers grew louder. Chains rattled, the human prisoner testing his bonds. Lyra trembled, torn between running to her mother and staring at the man who might be her father. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Is it true? Are you my father?" The man could not answer. He searched his memory, but shadows clouded his mind, pieces missing, stolen by time or war. Still, when he looked at her, something in his heart stirred, a warmth he did not want to admit. Sarah stepped forward, her voice sharp but desperate. "Believe me or not, you are bound to her by blood, and the truth will reveal itself soon." A crash came from outside, the guards shouting as flames lit the night sky. Sarah grabbed her child, her eyes fierce with fear. "We have to leave," she said. But her gaze flicked to the chained human, hesitation gripping her heart. Could she risk saving him too? Lyra, confused but drawn, stepped closer to the man, her small hand reaching toward him despite her fear. The human's eyes widened at the simple gesture, and for a heartbeat, the world around them disappeared, leaving only a fragile thread. Between father and child, the door shook as enemies tried to break it down. The mother's secret was out, and now their lives balanced on the edge of discovery, escape, or death. The truth had been spoken, but the real mystery had only just begun. The wooden door finally gave way, splintering under the weight of enemy fists. Sarah grabbed her daughter, Lyra pulling her close to her chest. The human prisoner lifted his head, his chains rattling as he tried to move, but the metal bit deep into his wrists. The guards stormed inside, dragging him out into the cold night, their laughter cruel. Lyra's small body trembled as she clung to her mother. Her heart still echoed with the words Sarah had spoken. "This is your real father." She stared through the cracks in the door. As they dragged the human into the street, the flames outside lit his face, rough and scarred. But his eyes, those eyes were strangely familiar. Sarah's voice was low, urgent. "We must follow, but quietly, Lyra," she said. Pulling a cloak over her daughter, they slipped into the shadows, moving with the crowd that had gathered to watch. The village square was filled with enemies, alien hunters wearing black armor, their spears glowing with cruel energy. The human was thrown to his knees, the chain tied to a post. The hunters shouted about his crimes, how he had trespassed, how he would die at dawn. But Sarah's eyes never left him. Lyra could feel her mother's grip tighten each time the human's head lifted to look at the crowd. The child whispered, "Mama, why does he look at me like that?" Sarah's lips pressed into a thin line, her voice breaking. "Because he knows, even if he does not understand yet." The human, though chained, seemed unafraid. He scanned the faces in the crowd until his gaze locked on the little girl standing, half hidden in the shadows. For a moment his breath caught, his body stilled. Something deep inside him stirred, though his mind screamed that it was impossible. Who was this child? And why did she look so much like him? Night grew heavy and the hunters left him bound to the post. Sarah knew this was her chance. She led her daughter closer, their steps silent on the dust. The human watched them approach, suspicion in his eyes, his muscles tense as if ready for a fight. Sarah raised a hand to calm him. Her voice was soft but steady. "We don't have much time, you must listen." The man snarled, "I don't know you, alien, I don't know her either, don't try to twist my mind with lies." Yet his voice shook when he glanced at Lyra. Again her wide eyes filled with fear and curiosity. Lyra stepped forward, her voice small but brave. "Are you my father?" The words cut through the night like a blade. The man's heart raced, memories tugging at him. Visions of battle, of a woman's face blurred by smoke, of a touch he had long forgotten. He shook his head, pressing his lips tight. "I don't know," he whispered, more to himself than to her. Sarah knelt beside him, her eyes burning with emotion. "Years ago, a soldier spared me. A human soldier. He disappeared, and I never saw him again. But he left me with her." The man stared at her, his jaw clenched. "You expect me to believe that I abandoned a child? That I walked away?" He growled. Sarah shook her head fiercely. "No, you were taken. Your memories stolen. I never wanted her to know the pain of truth, but the galaxy has forced my hand." Silence fell, heavy and sharp. The man's chest heaved, his mind a storm of doubt and broken images. The girl's eyes searched his face, desperate for answers, and for the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him. An instinct, a bond he could not explain. But before more could be said, the sound of armor returned, hunters marching back toward the square, their voices echoing through the night. Sarah's face turned pale. She pulled Lyra close and whispered to the man, "We cannot leave you here, not now." With swift hands, she pulled a hidden blade from her cloak, slicing the chain with one sharp motion. The man stumbled to his feet, stunned. "Why would you risk this?" he demanded. Sarah's eyes burned with fierce resolve. "Because she deserves her father alive, not dead at their hands." The hunters turned the corner just as the chain fell. Lyra gasped, clutching her mother's cloak. The human's body moved on instinct, grabbing Sarah's arm and pulling both mother and child toward the shadows. The chase had begun. As they ran through narrow alleys, Sarah's voice carried over the pounding of their feet. "You may not believe me yet, but soon you will see the truth." The human glanced down at the child running beside him, her hand small but strong as it gripped his. For the first time, he did not pull away. Behind them, the hunters roared, their weapons blazing through the night. But in front of them lay only darkness, unanswered questions, and the dangerous path toward the truth. And as the human looked once more at the little girl's eyes, so much like his own, he wondered if fate had already chosen for him. The night air was cold as they ran through the narrow paths of the alien village. Torches burned in the distance, and shouts of hunters echoed behind them. The human soldier's breathing was heavy, his steps rough on the stone ground. Yet he did not let go of the child's hand. Lyra stumbled once, but he pulled her up, steady and strong, like he had always done it before. Sierra led them through winding alleys until they reached an abandoned storage hut. She pushed open the wooden door, ushering them inside, and pulled it shut again. The room was dusty and filled with broken crates, but for now it was safe. The three of them stood in silence, listening to the hunters' voices fading into the distance. The human leaned against the wall, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His chains were gone, but red marks burned across his wrists. Lyra's wide eyes never left him, her small hand clutching her mother's robe. Sarah knelt in front of her daughter, brushing a strand of hair away from her face, her own expression torn between fear and determination. The man finally spoke, his voice rough. "I still don't understand," he said, his eyes narrowing at Sarah. "You claim I am her father, yet I remember nothing. No meeting, no bond, no child." His fists clenched, frustration clear in his movements. Sarah lowered her gaze, her voice soft. "Because the truth was stolen from you." The words hung heavy in the small room. Lyra tilted her head, confusion in her young eyes. "Stolen?" she asked. "How can someone steal memories?" Sarah hesitated, then sighed deeply, the weight of years pressing down on her shoulders. She turned toward the soldier, her eyes glimmering with pain. "You were a warrior, like me," she began. "We met on the battlefield, not as enemies, but as two souls tired of endless war." The man frowned, shaking his head, but his breathing slowed as her words dug into him. Sarah continued, her voice trembling but steady. "You spared me. When you should have struck me down, and in the chaos of that night we found something forbidden, something neither of our people would ever forgive." Her hand rested gently on Lyra's shoulder. From that night, she was born. The human's heart pounded in his chest. Images flickered in his mind. Smoke, fire, the clash of blades, a pair of alien eyes filled with light, a fleeting touch in the dark. He shook his head again, pressing his fingers to his temples. "No, I can't see it. It's there, but broken. Like someone ripped it away." Sarah nodded slowly. "They did," she said. "Your people and mine. Both feared what we had done. Both feared what she might become. They took you away and erased your memory, hoping to bury the truth forever." Lyra's mouth opened in shock, her small voice barely a whisper. "So, all this time you were alone because they didn't want him to know." Tears filled Sarah's eyes, but she forced a smile for her child. "I kept you safe, Lyra. That was all that mattered." The human's jaw tightened, anger and sorrow twisting inside him. "So I was robbed," he muttered. "Robbed of her childhood, robbed of the chance to hold her, to protect her." His fists shook, his voice growing sharper. "And now I don't even know if I can be what she needs." Lyra stepped forward, her small hands trembling as she touched his scarred wrist. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear, but also with something stronger. Hope. "I don't care if you don't. Remember," she whispered. "You feel like my father." The words pierced him deeper than any blade. For a moment he could not speak, his throat closing tight. Something inside him cracked, a wall breaking down. And though the memories were lost, the feeling in his chest was real, undeniable. Sarah turned her head, wiping her tears quickly. But there was no time to linger on emotions. Outside, the hunters' voices rose again, closer now, their footsteps drawing near. She straightened, her face turning hard with resolve. "We cannot stay here," she said firmly. "They will not stop until they take her. She is rare, half human and half alien. Her bloodline is dangerous to them." The soldier looked at her sharply. "Dangerous? Why her?" Sarah's voice dropped, heavy with truth. Because she carries the strength of both worlds, and if they cannot control her, they will kill her. The words chilled the air. Lyra's hand clutched tighter around the humans. The soldier stared down at her, feeling the weight of a choice he had never asked for but could not refuse. He took a slow breath, then looked at Sarah. If what you say is true, then they won't stop, not until she's gone. Sarah nodded, her face pale but fierce. The soldier's jaw tightened, his eyes hardening like steel. Then I will not let them take her, he said. Memory or no memory, she is mine now. The child's eyes lit with fragile hope. Sarah's lips trembled, but for the first time in years, she let herself believe they might stand a chance. But outside, the hunters, closed in, their shadows long and sharp across the dirt. The past had been revealed, but the future was rushing toward them like a storm, and none of them knew if they would survive the night. The night outside grew darker, but danger pressed closer. The hunters' voices echoed down the narrow alleys, their boots striking the ground like drums of war. Inside the abandoned hut, Sarah held her daughter close while the human soldier stood near the door, his body tense, his eyes sharp. He had no memory of being a father, yet the fire in his chest told him he must protect the child no matter what. Lyra's small hand gripped his wrist, her eyes wide. They're coming, aren't they? She whispered. The soldier nodded slowly, his jaw clenched. Yes, but they'll have to go through me first. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice low. Bravery will not be enough. These hunters are trained killers, and they do not stop. The soldier looked at her, his voice hard. Then give me something more than bravery. Tell me what I'm fighting. Sarah hesitated, but time was short. She leaned closer, her words sharp. They want her blood, her life, because she is both human and alien, because she carries strength that could unite or destroy. The soldier's chest tightened. He had fought wars before, but never for something so personal. The girl's innocent face turned up toward him, and in her eyes he saw trust. Trust he had not earned but could not ignore. He nodded, his voice firm. Then I'll fight for her. Suddenly the door rattled, heavy fists pounding against the wood. Sarah pulled Lyra back, her eyes filled with fear. The soldier grabbed a broken plank from the floor, his knuckles white as he gripped it like a weapon. The hunters' voices grew louder, their words dripping with cruelty. Give us the child and you may live, one of them shouted. Lyra pressed her face into her mother's robe, trembling. But the soldier stepped forward, his voice a growl. Over my dead body. The door burst open, splinters flying as armored hunters stormed inside. Their glowing spears lit the small room, shadows twisting like claws. The soldier swung the wooden plank with raw strength, striking. One across the helmet, sending him crashing to the ground. Another lunged at him, but Sarah leapt forward with her hidden blade, slicing across the attacker's arm, sparks flying as metal met flesh. The room exploded into chaos. Chains clattered, wood cracked, and Lyra's scream pierced the night. The soldier fought with the fury of a man protecting something greater than himself, every strike fueled by instinct, by a fire he did not understand, but could not deny. The hunters pressed hard, but together, human and alien stood side by side, refusing to give in. Still, they were outnumbered.
One hunter grabbed Sarah by the arm, slamming her against the wall. Lyra cried out, reaching for her mother, but the soldier roared, charging forward, tackling the attacker to the ground. His fists rained down like hammers, until the hunter lay.
Still breathless, blood on his knuckles, the soldier turned. Sarah stood again, her blade ready, but her face pale. She knew they could not hold out much longer. We must run, she gasped. Now, the soldier grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her close. The three of them dashed out into the night, hunters shouting behind them, spears glowing in the darkness. They weaved through the alleys, their footsteps echoing against stone. Lyra struggled to keep up, her legs small, but the soldier lifted her into his arms, carrying her with ease. She clung to his neck, her voice trembling. Don't let them take me. His heart ached at her words, and his answer came without thought. Never. The hunters spread out, their shadows flickering against the burning torches. From rooftops, arrows whistled down, striking the ground near their feet. The soldier ducked, his body shielding the child. Sarah's blade flashed, cutting down another who leapt from the shadows. They reached the edge of the village where broken walls opened into the dark forest, but the hunters were not far behind, their leader's voice echoing through the night. "You cannot run forever, the child belongs to us." Sarah's face hardened, her voice sharp. "No, she belongs to no one." The soldier's grip tightened on Lyra, his voice steady. "She belongs to family." They plunged into the forest, branches whipping against their skin, the ground uneven and treacherous. The hunters followed, their armor clanking, their glowing weapons lighting the trees like fireflies. But in the shadows of the forest, something shifted. The soldier moved differently, faster, as if the darkness guided him, as if some hidden instinct had awoken. Sarah noticed, her eyes narrowing. "You fought here before," she whispered. The soldier frowned, not answering because even he did not know. But his body remembered paths his mind had long forgotten. Deeper into the forest they ran, the hunters still on their trail. Every step carried danger, but also a growing bond between the three. Alien mother, human father, and a child caught between two worlds. They had faced death together tonight, and though the truth was still clouded, one thing was clear. Enemies lurked in every shadow, but family was beginning to shine in the dark. The forest was thick, shadows stretching long under the pale light of two moons. The sound of hunters chasing them had faded, but Sarah knew it was not over. She led the way through the tangled trees, her blade still in her hand. Behind her, the human soldier carried Lyra, his steps heavy but steady. At last they stopped near a quiet stream, the water shining faintly in the dark. The soldier set Lyra down gently, and she clung to his hand even after her feet touched the ground. Sarah crouched near the water, splashing her face, her chest rising and falling as she tried to steady her breath. The night was silent, yet the silence itself felt dangerous. Lyra looked between them, her young face full of questions. Her voice was small, almost afraid. "Why do they want me? What did I do wrong?" Sarah's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "You did nothing wrong, my child. You are special because of what you are." The soldier frowned, his arms crossed, his voice sharp. "You mean because she's half human, half alien?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Yes, but more than that. She carries the strength of both worlds, a strength the hunters fear." Lyra's hands trembled. "So, because I was born, they want to kill me." Her words broke the soldier's heart. He knelt in front of her, his rough hands gentle as he held hers. "Listen to me," he said softly. "You are not a mistake. You are not a curse. You are a gift." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "And," she whispered, "but I'm scared." The soldier squeezed her hand. "So am I. But being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means protecting what matters even when you are afraid." Sarah watched him, her eyes unreadable. Though he claimed he remembered nothing of the past, his words and actions carried the weight of a father's heart. For the first time, Sarah felt a spark of hope that perhaps fate had not stolen everything from them. But the child's heart was torn. She looked at her mother, who had raised her alone, who had sacrificed everything to keep her safe. Then she looked at the soldier, the stranger who might be her father, the man who had already risked his life. For her tonight, her voice trembled. "Who am I supposed to trust? Who am I supposed to believe?" Sarah's throat tightened. "Believe what you feel inside, Lyra, not just the words you hear." The soldier leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You don't have to choose between us, not now. But you must choose for yourself who you want to be." The girl's chest rose and fell quickly. She closed her eyes, remembering the fear in the village, the hunters' cruel voices, the way her mother's hands always held her, and the way the soldier's arms had carried her through the night. When she opened her eyes again, they shone with something new. Not fear, but determination. "I don't want to run forever," she said firmly. "I want to fight. I want to protect us too." Both Sarah and the soldier stared at her in shock. Sarah's voice broke. You are too young. But the soldier raised a hand, his expression serious. No, she's right, he said slowly. She deserves to have a choice. He turned back to Lyra, his voice calm but steady. If you want to fight, then you must learn, but you must also understand it means danger. It means sacrifice. Lyra nodded, her small hands balled into fists. I'm not afraid anymore, she whispered, though her voice trembled. Sarah's heart ached, but she saw the fire in her daughter's eyes. It was the same fire she once saw long ago, in the human soldier when he spared her life on the battlefield. And now, that same fire burned in their child. The soldier reached into the dirt, picking up a broken branch. He handed it to Lyra like a sword, his voice firm. Then let this be your first lesson. A warrior does not give up, no matter how small the weapon, no matter how strong the enemy. Lyra held the branch tight, her eyes shining with resolve. Her choice had been made, the forest around them stirred, and Sarah's head snapped up. She heard movement again. The hunters had found their trail. Her blade gleamed as she stood, her voice sharp. They are coming. The soldier placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, his voice low. Stay close, stay quiet, but remember you are not weak. The hunter's shadows stretched long between the trees, glowing spears cutting through the darkness. Lyra's heart pounded, but she did not hide. She stood between, her parents gripping the branch like it was steel. For the first time, she did not feel helpless. She felt like she had power, even if it was only in her choice to stand. And as the enemy closed in, Sarah and the soldier glanced at each other. No words were spoken, but the truth was clear. This fight was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting the future, the child who had chosen not to fear. The hunter's shadows closed in, their glowing weapons cutting through the darkness of the forest. Sarah stood ready with her blade, her body tense, her eyes locked on the enemy. The human soldier clenched his fists, his body aching but unbroken. Beside them, Lyra held her wooden branch like a weapon, her small frame trembling but her eyes burning with courage. The hunters spread out, surrounding them in a circle. Their leader, a tall figure with black armor, stepped forward. His voice, cold. Give us the child and you may yet live. Resist and you all die tonight. Sarah raised her chin, her voice fierce. You will never have her. The soldier's voice followed, a growl from deep inside his chest. You'll have to tear her from my hands and that will never happen. The hunters laughed, but their leader tilted his head, studying the soldier carefully. Strange, he said, his voice low. You do not even remember who you are, and yet you protect her as if you know. The soldier's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, he demanded. The leader chuckled darkly. You truly don't remember, do you? The memory wipe was complete. Sarah's breath caught, her blade trembling in her hands. She stepped closer, her voice sharp. You did this to him, didn't you? You erased his past. The leader smirked beneath his helmet. Of course, he was a traitor to his kind, a soldier who turned his back on humanity to lie with one of us. He pointed his spear at the soldier. He was punished. His memories taken, his past buried, yet here he is, drawn back to the child he should never have known. The words struck like thunder. The soldier staggered back, his mind spinning. Images crashed inside his head, flashes of battle, fire, Sarah's eyes filled with sorrow, a child's cry in the distance. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head, his voice a broken whisper. It's true. I was there. I chose her. Sarah knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder, her own tears falling. Yes, you chose me, and they took everything from you. Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. So you are my father. The soldier lifted, his head, his eyes meeting hers. Though pain filled him, there was also clarity now. Yes, I am your father, and I will never let them take you. The hunters hissed, their leader raising his spear. Then you will die as a traitor once more. Before the hunters could strike, the soldier surged to his feet, rage and love burning. Inside him, his body moved with strength he thought he had lost. Every motion sharper, faster, as if his true self had awakened. He grabbed a fallen spear from the ground, spinning it with practiced skill that shocked even him. The hunters attacked, but now he fought like a man who remembered who he was. Sarah fought beside him, her blade flashing under the moonlight. Together they struck with fury, each movement covering the other. Lyra stood behind them, her heart racing, watching as her parents fought like one. It was not just survival anymore, it was a family reclaiming what was stolen. The leader charged, his weapon aimed at Lyra. The soldier saw it and roared, leaping forward. The clash was violent, sparks flying as their weapons struck. The leader sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "You cannot win, human. You were broken once. You will be broken again." But the soldier's voice thundered back, "Not this time, because I remember who I am. I am her father." With one final strike, he drove the spear into the leader's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The remaining hunters faltered, fear flashing in their eyes. Sarah stood tall, her blade ready. "Go back to your masters," she spat. "Tell them the child is not theirs to claim." The hunters retreated, dragging their fallen leader with them, their shadows melting into the forest. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. The soldier dropped the spear, his hand shaking, his chest rising and falling. Sarah stepped to his side, her eyes soft but full of strength. Lyra ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist, her voice breaking with tears. "You didn't leave me. You came back." He knelt, holding her close, his voice steady. "I never left. They only made me forget. But now I remember, and I will never forget again." Sarah watched them, her heart torn between joy and sorrow. The truth had been revealed. The past no longer hidden, but she knew the danger was not gone. The hunters would return, stronger and more determined. Yet as she looked at the man and the child holding each other, she felt something powerful rise in her chest. Hope. For the first time in years, they were not just running, not just surviving. They were a family, united, unbroken, ready to fight together, and in the distance the forest whispered with the wind, carrying a warning and a promise. The greatest battles were still to come, but now they would not face them alone. The forest was quiet again, but it was the kind of quiet that carried warning. The hunters had fled, yet Sarah knew they would return, stronger, with more soldiers. The human soldier held Lyra in his arms, her small hands clinging to him as if she feared he might vanish if she let go. For the first time since the chaos began, he felt complete, his heart beating not only for himself but for the family fate had stolen and returned to him. Sarah touched his arm, her eyes serious. "They will come again, and when they do, they will not stop. This galaxy will not allow us peace." The soldier looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then we don't run anymore. If they want us gone, then we fight together." Lyra lifted her head, her eyes wet but shining with determination. "We are family now. We stay together," she whispered. The words struck deep in both of them, sealing an unspoken promise. They moved deeper into the forest until dawn broke, golden light spilling through the trees. At the edge of the woods stood the ruins of an old outpost, once abandoned, now silent. The soldier studied it, recognition flickering in his eyes. "I was here before," he murmured. Sarah glanced at him, surprised. "Your memories?" He nodded slowly. "Pieces. But enough. I know there are weapons hidden here. Tools left from the last war." Inside the outpost they found what they needed. Rusted blades, cracked shields, but also functioning rifles, old maps, and communication. "Equipment." Sarah's hand brushed over the weapons, her face grim. "We cannot fight an entire galaxy with scraps." The soldier shook his head, determination burning in his voice. "No, but we can start with what we have, and if we survive, others will join us." Lyra explored the room, her fingers brushing over a control panel covered in dust. When she touched it, the screen flickered to life, glowing bright. Sarah and the soldier turned to her in shock. The machine responded to her touch as if it recognized her, as if her mixed blood unlocked what neither human nor alien alone could. Sarah's voice trembled. "Do you see? This is why they fear her. She can connect both worlds. She can unlock what no one else can." The soldier stepped closer, his heart swelling with pride and awe. Then she is not just our child, she is proof that both sides belong together. But the moment of wonder was broken by the sound of distant engines. Hunters, more of them, ships cutting through the morning sky. Lyra's face paled. "They found us," she whispered. The soldier grabbed his rifle, his voice steady. "Then this is where we make our stand." The hunters descended like a storm, their black armor gleaming in the light. Sarah and the soldier stood side by side at the entrance of the outpost, blades and rifles ready. Behind them, Lyra stood with the glowing console, her small hands pressed against it. The machines hummed, power awakening from deep within. The battle began. The hunters charged, their spears blazing. The soldier fired, each shot precise. Fueled by instinct and memory, Sarah moved like flowing water, her blade cutting through armor with deadly grace. Together they fought as one, each covering the other, every strike protecting the child behind them. Lyra's heart raced as the console surged with light. Her touch sent signals across the machines, activating turrets hidden in the walls. Blasts of energy fired outward, striking the hunters, forcing them back. Her voice trembled, but she shouted, "I can help. I can fight too." The soldier glanced back, his eyes wide with pride. "Yes, Lyra, you're not just a child anymore. You're part of this fight." The hunters roared, but their numbers fell. The family stood together, unbreakable, even when the leader returned, scarred but alive, his fury burning like fire. He charged, his weapon raised high. The soldier blocked him, their clash shaking the ground. Sarah struck from the side, her blade cutting across his armor. And Lyra, with all her strength, activated the final defense, a blast of energy that lit the sky. The leader fell, his body broken, the hunters retreating in fear. The battlefield fell silent once more. Breathing heavy, the soldier dropped to one knee, exhaustion pulling at him. Lyra ran to his side, hugging him tightly. "We did it," she whispered. He held her, close, his voice soft but firm. "No. You did it, we all did together." Sarah stood over them, her blade lowering, her face filled with relief and pride. She reached for both of them, her family. For the first time in years, she felt whole. The galaxy was still against them. The danger not gone, but in this moment they had proven something greater than fear. That a family, human, alien, and child, could stand against the darkness and not break. As the sun rose higher, light spilling over the ruined outpost, the three of them stood together, hands joined, hearts united. A family not of chance, but of choice, ready to face whatever the galaxy dared to send next.